Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I dug a YouTuber from the grave. I have Pucokie, or Emily, here to talk about something that I feel is very personal to me as a person, as an INTJ, but also a conversation that I feel gets brought up a lot in the Myers-Briggs sphere, whether it's online, whether it's in person, or just any type of way for us to connect. And it's INTJs or INFJs when we start engaging with our lower functions and wanting to be around other people, whether it's friendship, relationship, or any type of human connection. So before we begin, Emily, would you like to explain or at least introduce yourself to the two people who might not know who you are?
Oh, I'm sure there's many people that don't know who I am. Hi, I'm Emily the Ghost or Pucokie. Yeah, I had a YouTube channel. I still have it, and I want to resurrect it. I've been kind of posting shorts, but yeah, I used to post content about Myers-Briggs and socionics. I am an INFJ, and I've been into this stuff since I was 16. I got into socionics at 19. I'm now 32. I'm all grown up, and
Congrats.
yeah, and yeah. So that's I've been living my life. That's about it.
Emily's being modest right now. She's one of the channels that stood out to me the most about from the INFJ perspective. She talked about INTJs in a few of her videos, and she saw parts of INTJs that I don't see in other content creators. And I think she is fantastic when she gives her little TI knowledge about INTJs. Like, check out her channel. I'll link it below. Emily, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So, again, just to recap everything, we're just talking about a relationship and building any type of connection. And one of the reasons why I reached out to Emily is because recently she's been posting her journey on building a community. Can you help me fill in the blanks?
Yeah. So I've been posting stuff about like being an introvert, and trying to make friends as an adult. I'm saying this from experience. I feel like I was able to do that. That was part of my journey about like getting off online or getting offline. I basically started making a good amount of friends to the point that now I'm like scaling back and I'm really trying to focus on certain types of friendship because I've told you this before, but I have a disease where I want to include everyone. Um,
I think we have a natural immunity to it, INTJs.
yeah, I want to include everyone, and it's not in my nature to exclude. I also think that comes from like being bullied when I was younger too. But yeah, so kind of a journey, but also my biggest thing now. I don't know. I was telling you this. I don't know if I want to do like really any typology videos or make that the main focus. My main focus is trying to inspire people, especially introverts, to get out there, make friends because it is possible to make friends as an adult. It's possible to like have like a very vivid outside world, especially as NI DOMs. I think it's very easy for us to have a very like vivid and um, I don't know. Just we really live in our mind. We're really cerebral, and it can be sometimes hard for us to put ourselves out there. So,
Do you find it more difficult now as an adult to put yourself out there, or do you find it a little easier now that you're more of a complete person?
I find it easier personally, but this is because I was like very quiet when I was younger, and again, I was bullied um, all throughout middle school and into the end of high school, and even in college. Honestly, I was bullied a bit, but that was like a different type of bullying. Um, but so yeah, I don't know. I think in college I really flexed that muscle. I like made myself be more social, more outgoing, and now it's like a lot more second nature for me. I still have social anxiety. I still get nervous. I don't think there's anything that I do that doesn't make me like in a social sense doesn't make me nervous. unless it's something that I have full control over. But yeah.
Full control. I find it fascinating that you mentioned that you were bullied. I want to go a little more in detail about that before we actually go into, like the steps that we've been taking as adults in order to make friends. But yeah, as an INTJ, I feel like I don't necessarily get bullied, but I also realize that I don't put myself in those positions. And there honestly is this kind of love-hate relationship that I have with people, that I've noticed with most INTJs, where if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. Like, I don't even think about most people who have negative thoughts about me. And even if they're in front of me, if I don't like them, I'm not going to give them my time of day. So it doesn't affect me as much as I know that it affects other people. Something to also notice is that INFJs, the ones that I've known pretty intimately, said something similar as well. That they felt outcasted middle school, high school, potentially college if they went to college. What is that bullying? Is it just being a social outcast? Like, help me understand what the journey is, like where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, so when I was in elementary school, well, first of all, I think a little context. My parents got divorced when I was 9, and I was a very, like, aware child, starting from the age of, like, 10 months old. So, even, like, say at
10
2,
months?
yeah, I was very aware of social dynamics, and just, I didn't know, like, obviously I didn't know necessarily some adult things. I knew, like, I could just basically see the dynamics between people when I was very young. And not to get too into it, but my parents, there was certain things that happened with them that I was very aware of, and it really affected me. And my parents always have said that I was just very sensitive, and just, yeah, just really cared about others when I was younger. And then I have a younger sister that's 2 years younger than me, so I was that way. So I was a very sensitive child, and in elementary school, because my parents' divorce took 3 years, so from 6 to 9, they were going through a pretty messy divorce. I kind of took on that, and when, 9 is a little bit right before you get into middle school, so I started experiencing a lot of anxiety and depression, and I would cry a lot. And in elementary school, it's one thing, but when you're in middle school and you're crying, and you're not trying to be cool, you're going to get picked on. I was not someone that tried to be a part of the cool crowd in middle school. I had a friend that I was friends with since I was like 6. And then in 6th grade, she dropped me because she wanted to be cool, and I didn't care to be cool. Like, I still liked her, but I just realized this was not my journey. And it also didn't help that, like, all of the popular kids rode on my bus, because they all pretty much, the majority of them lived in my neighborhood. And so starting on the bus, I would get picked on by, like, guys, and they just didn't know, I think, how to handle me, because I was very quiet, and then I cried just a ton because I was feeling a lot of emotions. And then when I would go to school, I was seen as weird because I wasn't trying to be cool, and then I was also quiet and cried a lot, and I was, all of those things, and I would talk to the teachers. And then at school, I mostly picked on by girls, and they were just, like, very mean. They would say things in front of me, like, laugh at me. And then the funny part was, okay, go ahead, sorry.
No. I'm listening. Go on, please.
Like, there were other people, because I felt bad for the bullies, because at a young age, I knew that they had a bad home life. So there's a reason they were doing that. So I was like, at a young age, I was like I had a certain empathy for those bullies. But where that ended, or like stopped, was when they would pick on other kids. So like I would get bullied. I remember being in chorus class and getting bullied by this group of girls. And then I saw them maybe the next day, maybe the same day, bully this other girl that was kind of, seen as weird or whatever. And I like went up to them, even though I did not do this for myself. I went up to them and stood up for that girl. And then in high school, it was a very strange experience because again, it was mostly because I was quiet and cried still in high school. I would have anxiety attacks at least once a week that I would have to be pulled out of the class. And that was just kind of something that I think people really found, okay, who is this person? Like they would talk to my friend, Rachel, who is an INTJ that I had been friends with since I was 10. She she told me that because we didn't really have any classes in high school together, but she told me that people would come up to her and ask her questions about me, because they knew that like Rachel was one of the only people that I like hung out with outside of school. But yeah, there's a lot to this, and it was a very weird experience because on one hand I was told by kids when I was young, or kids and adults, and starting in late middle school, in high school, oh, you should be a model. Like I would have people say that to me, and then I would also have people like bullying me for being too quiet. So it was a very like strange thing. I think people just didn't know how to handle me, honestly. So it was a very, I don't know, very strange, bizarre experience. I never got asked out in high school, really. Nobody asked me to prom. I actually asked one of my friends who was in college at that point. So it just, yeah. I never went to parties. I never tried to do any of that stuff. I just had a few people, and one of the people that is still to this day is my best friend is an INTJ. So.
Thank you for providing all that context. And I kind of have a little bit of questions for that, just so that myself and the viewers have kind of an understanding of your growth as well. Do you believe that what you have now, how you see the world and how you engage with the world, your experience as a child would have been different?
Oh yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was funny, I actually went to my 10-year high school reunion.
Wow, you guys still have that?
A few years ago.
Oh man, you're old.
And I actually helped plan it. So that was really weird for people. As the person that was like one of the quietest people, it was interesting to see people again. And not in I just had a completely different perspective on certain people, and you'd like realize, okay, yeah, these people may have been a certain way because they had a certain home life, but it just made I think I wish I would say this for a lot of things in life. I wish I didn't take it as seriously. And it just is unfortunate that I dealt with a lot of stuff outside of school, that definitely affected me in school. And I don't think I really had a lot of people that understood me. That was kind of a thing that I always thought about, was the fact that I really felt like I can't really be myself at school. I would like kind of hide away and just be quiet, not really engage, because I thought that was easier than trying to be more of myself, which I am quiet, I am reserved in a lot of ways, but I'm also like very goofy, and I can be very loud and stuff. And I don't think I had the support in that way, and it's not the fault of like my parent. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say that, but
yeah.
Well, I know my mom did a really good, my mom really tried. I just think she didn't necessarily know. And again, I didn't really act the way that I did at school at home. So that was also something different.
Let's talk about college. You said that it went all the way to college. Were you quiet as a college student, as well?
Again, I think it's kind of like in my nature, But when I went to college, because I chose a school that the majority of the people that I was going to be in, or that I went to high school with, were not going to. Like, I was not trying to go to the school that everyone else went to. And I made it a point, I stayed on campus, so I was in the dorms, and I like definitely looked up YouTube videos at the time. I was also really into personal development starting in middle school as well. So I got into like manifestation, and I was reading like personal development books at a young age. But so I think that definitely helped. But yeah, I definitely looked up advice about like going to college and stuff. And one of the things that I told myself that I wanted to do is I wanted to be more outgoing and get over my social anxiety and just basically not be branded with the quiet person trope. So when I moved into my dorms the same day, I knocked on every single door on my floor and introduced myself, which is something that I would have never
Wow.
done.
Okay. Did you bring like cookies and stuff too?
No,
Like, how did it
no.
go? Hi, I'm Emily. I'm your new flatmate, like floor mate.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are very receptive when you first start college, so it wasn't that weird. And then another thing I did is I would just invite random students that I would meet in classes or at different places to lunch or dinner or even breakfast. And so I started befriending people that way. And then I also did like simulation teams like Model UN. And then I was an RA, a resident assistant. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff where I like really put myself out there and really, I got really involved in my university. And yeah, I think that was a big way. And so by the end, I would say at the end of my freshman year, people really did not know that I was quiet in high school. They thought that like people used the word, "Oh, this is easy for you because you're popular." It's like, no, I was never popular. So it is a different perspective, but yeah, it can change. And I would even say I know that I was younger when I made that change, but you can make that change at any point in your life.
I find it very fascinating that as an INFJ, you went through an evolution similar to what I went through. The approach is completely different. And like I'll give my view of my personal development to get to where I am right now too. But I do want to say that when people meet me, they are they don't believe me when I tell them like I'm more introverted, that like time alone, because the way I present myself when I come out to people, or not come out, but whenever I'm out with people, they're I'm very social. I know how to be social, and it's all by design. And I'll go
Yeah.
into my design later and all my theory crafting and all the experiments that I ran. But I think before we get into that portion, right, one thing that I do want to understand about the INFJ, Emily, about your journey to where you are right now, is was there a moment where you decided, hey, that image or that person, that version of Emily, the quiet one, the one that took things personal, the one that didn't really engage much with people or allowed people to say whatever about me, I don't want that person to be who I am moving forward. Like, was there a definitive moment that just a flip that switch, or something that you went through, an internal dialogue to get you to where you were today, where you are today?
I think there was just many moments like that for me, especially right before college. I think once I knew where I was going to college, and that the summer, especially like when you're moving away to a different city and stuff, or state or whatever, just preparing for college and just realizing, because I mean, the thing was, I did have friends outside of school, and I was myself with those people, and I was myself with like my family and stuff. So like it wasn't like I was like hiding myself from everyone. And then even people that weren't necessarily friends of mine, they would see me outside of school and they'd be like, "Whoa, I didn't know you were fun." Like
Yeah.
like I literally got that. I literally had people be like, "Oh my gosh, you're way more fun than I thought you would be."
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I think it was like I in my mind I do think there was a definitive moment. But I don't know exactly that moment, but I can there definitely was a switch that happened where I'm just like, this is I'm just sick of this. I need to have a different approach. I need to get over myself, honestly.
And look at you now, girl. Look at you now.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, if you don't hear it enough, I'm like happy for you. I'm like ecstatic for you. I'm so glad that I love hearing the story of people who felt outcasted and then developing into who they want to be. And this is my FI gripe, right? Like, let me FI dump you real quick. One of the things I hate the most is one of those movies where Nickelodeon shows are, one of those teenage movie shows where, there's a quiet kid and all of a sudden the quiet kid gets introduced to the popular kid. And at the end of the show or at the end of the movie, the quiet kid is now loud. I don't like that because you're still an introvert. At the end of the day, you should still be okay to be introverted, still be more quiet, but still be accepted, and that ends my FI rap. I feel like it never allows an introverted person to stay introverted. It expects an introverted person to be extroverted. Um, yeah, my bad. Just decided
No.
to go on this
So
tangent.
you were saying that your journey was very similar, like, but you had a different approach.
Yeah, I'm not gonna speak for all INTJs, but if you're an INTJ watching this video and you don't agree with me, you're wrong. So how this works, at least for myself, is I've always been a quiet person, loud to the people that I need to be loud with. I speak whenever I need to speak, but if I don't see a point in speaking, I'm not gonna speak. Right? I was a crybaby when I was a kid. Auntie Fi, she's always been there, but who's been louder was Papa and I, and Mama T. Right? They've always been around me. Extroverted thinking for an INTJ, or at least for myself, has always made me somewhat competitive. Like I'm not competitive to the sense where I want to beat someone in whatever we're going with. It's if someone looks down on me, my immediate response was, "You can laugh at me now, but you're going to be working for me later." Right? Like it's very difficult for me to not have a megalomaniac view of myself because if I don't have that view, I don't know. Like, I would be so depressed. I would be so freaking depressed if I didn't think of myself highly. Even if I don't have the accolades now, having introvert intuition, I'm gonna have it. Like I'm gonna make strides towards it. But yeah, when I was in middle school, I was relatively quiet. I have lots of older sibling. My older sibling, he's 2 years older than me. So middle school in America, sixth grade to eighth grade, we were all in middle school. He was the popular kid. An ISFJ, he was legitimately the popular kid in school, where girls would come up to me and laugh at my face when they found out that I was his brother. Like, I won't forget those moments where girls were like, "Oh, you're his brother," laughing and walking away, right? It's during that time frame, I hated, the spotlight. And then secondly, I hated the fact that I was associated with my sibling, even though he was the reason why I was, taken care of, because if anyone messed with me, they were afraid of him, which in certain instances, it did benefit me because I didn't grow up in that affluent of a neighborhood. But in high school, I remember the day where everything switched. I remember being a sophomore in high school and, I guess typical Asian. I was a sophomore, but I had classes with seniors, juniors, and seniors in math class. And if you can recall being in high school, someone that's a grade higher than you, it's huge difference. You just feel like you're outcast. You feel like you're an alien. And I remember that day where I was standing in front of my class, about to walk into class, but then my other friend was like, "Hey, let's just skip. We're going to skip class. And we're going to go hang out with these people." I remember definitively looking at the classroom, then look at my friend and thinking to myself, I choose to develop a social personality rather than stick with academics. Because of that, I'm a freaking idiot. But I'm an idiot with a degree. But you know, that moment changed how I started viewing interactions. That moment changed how I started viewing the importance of being social. And mind you, when I was in middle school, this was when like the internet was still booming for all you young kids out there. I remember getting introduced to Google Scholars, and I remember reading documentations on like research after research on how to make friends. Most of those research documents always concluded with the same conclusion. There's no definitive answer to this. People like who they like. It's based off of preference. It's also based off the person. And me being me, I don't like that answer. I decided that I'll figure out what makes people like people. So throughout high school, I lucked out. I wasn't the popular kid, but I had access to party favors, like alcohol and stuff. And I'm not saying we drank alcohol when we were kids, but I'm saying we might have. And because of that, and because of just me being me, which I believe is attributed to being an INTJ, I was able to utilize that access to this finite resource that's very difficult to have and use it to my advantage when it comes down to being popular, when it comes down to social interaction, when it comes down to actually, being able to engage with other people. Because people knew that if they engaged with me, they had access to this. So that's when I ran a lot of my tests. I remember asking people all these dumbass questions, like, Emily, let me ask you this for everyone to see, right? And I asked over like 100 people this in high school. When you use the bathroom, right? And when you're done pooping, do you look at the toilet paper after like when you wipe your butt?
Yes.
Right? So that answer makes sense. I can't tell you how many people say that they don't look at the toilet paper. I've gotten so many response. People were like, oh, after 2 or 3 wipes, it should be clean. That's false. We all know that's not true, depending on how heavy the flow is. There are also people who say that they look after like whatever swipes. And there are other people who say, they look at every swipe. And that was kind of my journey in understanding that everyone operates differently. So in order for me to engage with them, I have to engage with them a separate way. And it came from this stupid survey that I, found online. But yeah, after that, I went to college. I only hung out with like a handful of people. And after college, if you've been watching my channels for a while, like I've joined the military. And in the military, that was when the biggest culture shock for me. That's when I started having access to people from all around the world, primarily from America, but all around the world. I remember meeting people who I didn't have access to living in the city that I grew up in, and just started paying attention to people, started learning from people, like Midwestern America. I've met people from there that they do things that I thought was so effective that I incorporated into myself, which was using the word pleasure, right? Which is something that the South does as well, but I feel like Midwesterners do that more, where they're like, oh yeah, it was my pleasure. And it just feels good. Like when you hear that, it's like Chick-fil-A does that on a daily basis. Yeah.
That's the only place I feel like I hear it at, personally.
It's crazy.
As someone that lives in the South, I feel like the only place I hear someone say that is at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, right. That or like I've noticed it in hospitality as well. Just that word in itself is so freaking powerful. So during that time in the military, I've met people from all around. Started listening to them and started picking up little nuances from them that I developed and incorporated into myself. Like I don't want to talk about a lot of my strategies or all the tactics that I have in order to make people feel good, but I will say that
You're gonna keep that the secret?
It's a lot. Like I have a method to approaching, to making people feel comfortable, to making people feel comfortable where they want to connect with me again, to actually following up, to like all that stuff, And it all comes down to just my passion for psychology. I think the easiest example I can give you is, for INTJs, guys, if you approach someone and you just smiled, it changes everything. Or if you make a phone call or emails, which, like Emily, I don't think you noticed this, but I've noticed this about comments for my channel. I could tell if someone's an NTJ just by their comment. I could tell when someone's an NF just by their comments. And this is something that I've noticed, which is that NTs usually give our response first, like our critique of whatever we're saying, and then give praise at the end. NFs typically give some type of praise in the beginning and then some type of critique at the end. And it's very fascinating for me to notice that, because I started noticing that I did it myself, even work emails. So then, I developed this method to do a sandwich. Something that's positive first, negative, and then sandwich it, like close it up with something that's positive as well. But yeah, I went through a lot of journey of self-discovery. Definitely changed how I approach things. I definitely have my own personal index of personality types that's may or may not fit Myers-Briggs or cognitive functions. But yeah, I can't say that I was ever bullied per se. I will say that people knew that I was different. They still know I'm different, but I've learned how to make it so that they accept me for being different. And the other part of it is I just don't care. If they're not part of my circle, I really do not care.
I think that's very good. That's something that I've had to realize, because I don't think that's as natural for me to be okay with. I mean, I don't care that everybody doesn't like me, because I think that's just part of the human experience. You don't want everybody to like you. If everybody likes you, there's something wrong in a certain way. But yeah, I think that's good that it is interesting that you use certain strategies to speak with people, because I think that's also something I've noticed with INTJs. My friend Rachel, that even though she's also very introverted, I also think that it had to do with the fact that she had 4 other siblings. So she had a larger family and stuff.
That helps out a tremendous amount.
Yeah, and she had a very FE heavy household. So she was kind of the outcast in that sense. She would just want to read books and stuff in her room. And her family really wanted her to be a part of the family. So at school, also because she had, I would say, a more idealistic childhood, her parents, just her household situation was better. She really could put on the charm a lot at school and make it seem like she liked certain people when she didn't, or she was very good at navigating the social landscape of high school, especially. Whereas, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if other INFJs can relate to this, and I'm not saying we can't do that, because I think INFJs can be incredibly manipulative, but that just was not something that I was doing.
You chose not to do it, or you didn't have the opportunity to do it?
I chose not to.
We're going to go into her cult in a little bit. We're going to see how a developed INFJ uses all their function to master being a cult leader.
No.
I think that was an interesting segue into the next part of the video. That took us about 30-ish minutes, but I think it was needed in order to kind of paint the big picture of where we are today. I want to start off with you, Emily, and ask you about kind of your thoughts on having a social network, whether it's just platonic relationships, or whether it's dating or family or any type of relationship, including peers, and how you were able to navigate that, and honestly, what you do, not necessarily on a daily basis, but what you do in the sensory world in order to obtain what you have.
That's a good question. I would say that, yeah. Um, so for me, I would say to for a very modern day, um, like landscape of things, starting in 2021, so right after the pandemic. So this is actually like right when my channel went defunct, slash my TikTok went defunct. So unfortunately, yeah, the story I'm about to say is partly why I wasn't on social media a lot, because I was like really putting in the work to be in person with people. Um, I think I got to a point that I was really focused on making friends online, and I had friends in other states. Yeah, so in 2021, I decided to really kind of put myself out there. This is me moving back to like the city I'm in right now. I had a meetup group that I started in 2019 here, called the Thought Provokers, and it's a discussion group, and we talk about all different topics. And I decided to start it up again because people were asking about it. My first iteration of it was much smaller, and we didn't really have like a set topic every week. But that was kind of my way, because I wanted to make friends in the area, and I actually was thinking I was going to move. But I wanted it to be not just like surface level discussions, because I have a hard time just like going places where I don't know. It like I'm okay in social situations where you can kind of just go up to people and stuff, but this was like a way of me being like, we definitely are going to have something somewhat interesting to talk about. I did this discussion group thinking it was kind of going to be similar to the last time, but then it ended up being where there was a good amount of people that came. We started having like 20 to 30 people come to every discussion group, every discussion every Thursday. And that grew, and I started hanging out with those people. And that was a really good way of like building up some closer friendships, like very early on, because of the nature of our discussions. And we were like hanging out afterwards and stuff. I also did some other things. There's this thing called authentic relations, and it's like this very odd, very, I would say very FI, honestly. I mean, not that FI's not
Yeah. Who likes FI here?
okay, there
Not
are a
me.
lot of FI users that I feel like are attracted to it, but I found it interesting. But it's like you are taught. I don't know if any, but it's also called connection games. And they have them all over the country. But basically, this was like you would have like a starter game, and you would talk with people, and it would be like stare into this person's eyes for 5 minutes. Or like, there would be some interesting starter games, and then there would be this thing called T group, where
Hidden
you would
kiss.
have to what?
Hidden kiss. Five
Yeah,
minutes. Hidden
yeah.
kiss.
Well, prior to me joining it, they had some interesting things happen. But anyways, T group was this thing where people like had to stay in. So you had to stay in the present moment. You couldn't talk about the future or the past, for 45 minutes straight. You could only talk about stuff that was happening right in the moment. And so this was interesting because you could be like, I have a story in my head that you're confused about this situation. Or like you couldn't be like, hey, why are you looking like that? You would have to ask that. Anyways, random. Did that, I did improv. So I took improv classes, and I was a part of an improv theater for like 2 years, which I would perform on a weekly basis in front of a paid audience.
Oh shit. Okay, that was legit.
So yeah, people had to come and pay us to watch us, which was interesting. Um, Also like just doing like game nights. I was involved in other stuff too. One of my like guilty pleasures, which I think I told you about, is this game called Blood on the Clock Tower, which is a social deduction game. And I don't know.
Social deduction.
I did like a lot of meetups, a lot of like social meetups too, but the majority of my friends were definitely from thought provokers, and then I made a good amount of friends through improv as well.
So you did about 5 or 6 different things. What's the time frame between all of this?
It was so there was a point in which I was doing something every single night. So I was thought provokers was once a week, improv was sometimes twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. I was doing like a movie meetup. I forgot to say I also ran a typology meetup where I was helping people learn socionics and like Myers-Briggs and stuff. So in tandem, I would say about 4 or 5 of those things were happening at once.
Are you sure you're not missing anything else? I feel like the longer
There
we talk,
are
the
some
more
that I'm
other
missing.
things.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And this is why like people you get confused for being an extrovert. People would confuse me for being an extrovert because they're like, how the hell can you like, because it felt like I was like the Energizer bunny that like could never stop because I was always doing something. But then I got really burnt out, and here we are now. I have gone away from certain things, like I'm not doing improv anymore. I am not involved in like my local politics as much anymore. So really thought provokers and some other stuff that is not like. Also, a lot of these things, except for improv, I was running. So I ran most of the things.
You were
I
a
was
leader
in charge of it. Yeah, I was in charge of all of like the majority
of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Cult leader.
No. But I do get I mean, I joked with John about this, but I did get accused of being a cult leader for a while. And I still do to an extent. But this didn't start nowadays. It started when I was younger. So,
Off topic, but I think this is a topic that I want to dive into with an INFJ. Why do you believe people follow INFJs? Like, why do you think people follow you?
so this has been really like it's been very sweet, but also like I guess where I'm getting at is you don't always realize like the impact you have on certain people, and that's partly. I mean, I know that this is kind of a roundabout answer, but it's partly why I wanted to get back into YouTube, because I don't get a lot of people messaging me anymore, but I do still get people time to time asking me like, oh, I would love to see your videos. I love your videos, all that stuff. And like, oh, this stuff really helped me.
Yeah, I'm one of them. Like,
oh, well,
put more videos out.
That's sweet of you. That's very sweet of you, John. I, much like that, I get that in person as well. Where kind of circling back to the idea of being bullied. Also, if you guys can hear that in the background,
She's so cute.
I have a miniature Australian Shepherd. I guess we should introduce her to the camera. This is Fia.
Hey, Fia.
Yeah, but she loves being involved.
What would you type her as?
I think I've told you this. I try not to type. It's like I can definitely narrow down what I don't think she is. I think she's I think she's an extrovert, and I think she's an FE user.
Mm-hmm.
She's very empathetic, like extreme, and I know she's a dog, but I definitely think my cat is either an INFJ or an INTJ. My cat Fleur. I would say my mom thinks that Fleur is exactly like me, and that is like the biggest compliment ever because I love her.
Yeah.
But I don't know with Fia. She might even be. I don't know. I have no idea. I would have to think about that. But Yeah, so going back to that, I do have people that I'm friends with tell me that the reason that they have friends is because of me. Uh,
Oh, so you're like the bridge.
I for the longest time was kind of acting as a bit of a I didn't realize it. I wasn't like actively trying to do this, but a lot of the people that I'm friends with, like again, I try to include everyone. And so my baby, my favorite thing, I don't know why I'm talking like this. My
Go ahead,
favorite
baby.
yeah, my favorite thing in the world is to introduce other people to my friends. Like I want everybody to know each other, and I know that that is not necessarily something that everyone can relate to. But my ideal situation is that everybody I know knows each other. I would love that. I love when people talk with each other. I love to play like the Great Gatsby at parties and maybe not even be in the party, but just like have everybody mingle with each other. It's like my favorite thing. But I was
Why?
having what?
Why?
Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, this person, I know this person from this, and I don't know if they would get along with this other person because they're so different, or like I know them in such different contexts. But in my opinion, I think pretty much anyone can get along with anyone else. I mean, there are definitely personalities that you may not like as much, but I think they kind of naturally select, or there's like a natural selection that happens within like a friendship dynamic where people can do that for themselves. Like, I don't try to play God to those people. Like, I'm not trying to prevent people from meeting. If anything, I'm playing God in the sense that I'm like, let there be let there be friendship, and I just throw them out. But also, I have learned that that strategy does not always work. It has actually bit me in the butt like many times. But I
You have strategies for having people engage with each other?
what do you mean?
Like you said that strategy doesn't always work, and that strategy involves other people because
Oh, I
I
guess
don't even have that.
yeah.
I don't even
Yeah,
have that.
well,
Yeah.
it's not okay. I guess in a roundabout way. I'm not like doing it. I don't know. I feel like I'm not doing it to gain anything. I really do like I my strategy is so that people can
Mm.
get to know each other and so that people can make more friends and make more connections. Um and yeah, so basically I think the reason people have said that to me, that they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't be here, if I wasn't friends with you or whatever," is a lot of people, and this is not and all right, sorry. I've seen people develop this skill over time. But a lot of the people that I'm friends with, or just in general, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is the fact that most people or a smaller group of people initiate plans. I think, especially as an adult, if there isn't like some type of organized thing for people to go to, they aren't the first people to reach out or make a plan. And I was creating basically people's social calendar for them. Um,
So you're the reason why INTJs get stressed out. Okay.
what do you mean?
It just I have INFJs in my life too, and it's always, hey, this day we're doing this. Put this on your calendar. This day we're doing this. Put this on your calendar. And it stresses me out when my calendar starts getting filled up. Um, it stresses me out in a good way because I
Yeah.
know I'm going to be around people that I enjoy, but it's still stressful nonetheless because here I am having to engage with other people when majority of the time I'd rather just do whatever I want to do that day, or unless I have a plan for something else. But I'm sorry, keep going, please.
No,
And
I
then just
think
well, before I begin too, I think it's so fascinating here how NI works with FE. because this hearing you that you have strategies with groups and people, it's just fascinating to hear as an INTJ who's FE blind, that doesn't even cross my mind unless it's in a work environment.
Yeah. Well, here's where I think you and I would definitely differ in a social context because, again, I would say I've I've always naturally gravitated towards INTJs. I love INTJs both in a platonic and romantic sense. I feel like I really get along with them, but it where we differ especially is at like larger gatherings. So my ideal large gathering, everyone is involved. So everyone is doing the same thing at the same time, and everybody has like a great energy about them. But the INTJs I know, they're off talking about relationships or like some type of, maybe even like politics, some type of thing off in the corner. And it's like a smaller group. They could give a rat's ass about whatever else is going on. They don't want to be they don't want to be pulled into whatever that big, large group is. And, like, even if the majority of the people think it's like this really fun, exciting thing, for example, Blood on the Clock Tower, this is.
She's selling it. She's, guys, today we're endorsed by Blood on the Clock Tower.
The Pandemonium Institute in Australia, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, shout out Pandemonium Institute. I would love them. They're the best. But yeah, Blood on the Clock Tower. If you've never played it before, it's very fun. But yeah, I don't know. Can you relate to that as an INTJ going off?
Absolutely. Absolutely, dude. Like, I always have to make eye contact with my INFJ friend, like whether it's like the guy or the girl who's hosting. I every event it's always we make eye contact and then they're like, okay, he's not gonna join. But then I'm usually in the back. That's when I have great conversations with INFPs and INTPs. We're just chilling in the back, just watching everyone, and it's way more fun to people watch than to get that spotlight. Like my group of friends, every event, Halloween, Thanksgiving or something, there's like costume contest. For Christmas, we're always doing these crazy games that whatever the ESTP came up with that she saw on TikTok or Instagram. I never want to be a part of it, but I have to because there's going to be, like 50-ish people just staring at me. I'm like, you need to be a part of this. So yeah, it feels more comfortable to be in the back, not because I don't like the people. It's that it doesn't make sense to do that if I have a better time being outside of it and just watching everyone having a good time. Because I have a good time when my friends are having a good time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Why do you... How do you feel when you see your INTJ not engaged? Does that make you feel sad?
Well, it depends. I mean, I get it. I understand it. But...
Mm-hmm. Why?
If it was my way, everyone would be doing the exact same thing with each other. We would all be playing stuff, and we would all be engaged with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also like getting in. I mean, I know maybe not everybody's like into socionics, but that's like a very quadra related thing. I think the beta quadra, which I would be in, is very much on larger group dynamics, like ESTP, for example, or ENFJ. Whereas with you do like the more segmented groups. And the Gamma Quadrant in general likes to talk about like more serious topics. And so they find that to be fun. Even though I can find that stuff fun, I won't necessarily want to do that in a larger group setting.
I think you're tooting our horn way too much right now. Most of the time when we're back there, we're just shooting the shit, talking about the dumbest things. It just, me personally, INTJs, comment below if you feel differently, but it feels weird to be in that group having to perform something that doesn't feel right to me, but feel pressured by other people. If it's something that I enjoy doing, then yeah, I'll be part of it. But if it's something that I don't enjoy doing, that's new to me, or something that I suspect that I won't enjoy, I know I will ruin the vibe if I am a part of it because I might not want to do something. I'll feel pressured, and I could tell that my friends could tell when I'm not having a good time. So being selfish actually helps everyone out.
No, I think that's actually pretty considerate. I think I would prefer someone to self-select themselves out of the situation than to have a bad, like, not necessarily a bad attitude, but like kind of, I would rather the emotional landscape be more homogenous than to have like one person stick out like a sore thumb in a,
Yeah.
yeah.
How did we get here again?
I don't know.
All right, guys. I don't know how we got to where we are right now or what started this conversational thread, but let's shift gears real quick. I don't know what the title of this video is going to be, but I know it's going to be about building relationships. So let's focus on that portion a little more. Emily, can you explain to me what your approach is outside of hosting that made you more effective in being sociable and building a network that you have to be able to then strategize and how to get groups together?
Um, I think having like a high level of openness to people, um, even though I do have a certain like intuition about people when I first meet them, I try not to let any of those judgments, maybe like my first kind of judgments that I might have, affect how I interact with them, unless I like get a really bad vibe from someone. Um, and so I really like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I really like to really get to know someone. And I'm not doing this in a way that I'm like, so like, the way that I see people, I don't see people as having like, oh, this person's more valuable than that person type of thing. But I just see people like on an individual level. And I don't know, I would say that I talk about things, I ask them questions, I really try to get to know them, talk about things that they're interested in, and I also really make it a point to try to include them and stuff. Not even in a hosting manner, but just like whether that I really like one-on-one things. So for example, one of my like better friends now, her name is Kristen. I haven't quite typed her. I definitely know what she's not, but
I thought you don't like typing your friends, huh?
I know.
Mm.
I roughly type them, but like I like try not to do it. I mean, unless it's like so obvious, I do try not to unless they are like receptive to being typed. And if I really like sat down and thought about it, I think I could do it. But I try to really get to know someone before I completely be like, oh, I think you're this type. Because there was actually a friend yesterday, again off topic, or on topic but off topic, that asked me. She's like, oh,
Such an NI thing to say.
I took that test you told me about. What type did you think I was? And I guessed the type that she tested as. So like I am still doing it, but I try not to.
It's hard not to just naturally have
Yeah.
impressions of people after because you spent like since you said that you've been like researching this since you were in like high school, right? Or like in your
Yeah,
teens.
so half of my life I've been into this stuff.
Yeah, so I understand because I personally, it's the same for me too. I don't type people, but things that they do leave impressions that are so pronounced that it's very difficult to ignore.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do. I guess you caught me on that. But yeah, but this friend Kristen, she's like, I really like her. But at first, like, so I always liked her when I first met her. But we didn't really connect until we started do like connecting on more of a deeper level until we started doing like morning walks together. So we've been going on like walks maybe 2 to 3 times a week
Hmm.
for like an hour, and we just talk about all types of subjects, especially about relationships and friendships specifically, because both of us are interested in that kind of stuff. And I really do think that it is like, in order to even have a friend group, it is good to be friends with people on an individual level, not just in the group. But I don't know. I think it's just a matter of really getting to know people and just giving them a chance and not writing off people just because you may have preconceived notions about who they are. Um, yeah.
So is the difference in your approach now compared to when you were younger that you're more willing to get to know the person outside of whatever your initial impression of them might be?
I don't think it was really that. It was more that I shielded myself from other people. So I
Right.
wasn't really, like, I mean, I think I was able to make friends fairly easily, even in high school or middle school, but I just didn't try. I didn't put myself out there with certain people, and it was easy to do. Like, just don't sit at a certain lunch table, and like during class, I just wouldn't talk to people. I would just maybe talk to my neighbor or the teacher. So it was very easy to just avoid people. But yeah, I think I don't. I try not to be. I try not to assume things from people now. I would say.
Mm. And then when you meet someone new, you said that you've learned to be more open with them. What are you open about specifically?
I would say like anything and everything. Like I'm a pretty open book. So I don't try to like trauma dump on people, but like if someone's talking about something, I do like relate with them. If they're, you know, I think also just being able to talk about different subjects and also mastering some level of small talk, because it just is what it is. Like when you first meet someone, in most contexts, you're going to have a level of small talk with them.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that small talk is like this horrible thing. It's kind of a necessary evil, in order to like make people feel more comfortable. It eases people into a conversation, and it's and sometimes people really don't like to talk about like heavier subjects. So like last night, for example, I did this thing called dinner club. My city has a thing where you take a quiz, a personality quiz, and then it matches you up with 5 random strangers. And one of the things, we didn't have any questions like prepared or anything like that, but when we all sat down, and my group was all women, it could be like a mixed group of like men and women as well, but mine was all women. And I was just like, I'm just going to get to know these people. So I was just asking them, like, where they're from, like what we talked about, like what we do. Somehow the topic of shingles came up, because there were some medical people, and I talked about the fact that I had shingles and I almost went blind from shingles. So, like, I don't know. I think also just having these kind of random conversations gives you a sense of gives the person a sense of ease and comfort and familiarity. Also, doing stuff with people, like if you feel awkward just being at a coffee shop or a dinner, maybe going out and doing something physical, like going axe throwing or something like that, or even just sharing an experience. I know, like, going to the movies is maybe not the best place to first meet someone, or like a comedy show.
That sounds like a date.
Well, you can do it with friends too. It doesn't need to always just be a date.
Mm. Okay, so I'm just imagining I meet a guy named Mark. I'm like, hey, Mark, you want to go watch this movie with me? I wonder what he would think. Which,
Okay,
I
okay,
mean,
yeah, that well, I'm thinking more like with more than one person, but I guess the comedy show thing is like very kind of specific to like where I live. I know that other people have comedy shows, but like my improv like theater, it's very common for people to just like go see a show because it's pretty cheap. It's like $10, $15 on the weekends, and people will be like, "Yeah, let's just go to the show." And it's a good way to like kind of as an icebreaker if you just met someone, be like, "Hey, do you want to go to the show with me?" But
nice, nice.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how insightful I am. I feel like a lot of my advice is just like just do it,
Be
but
yourself. Do it.
just do
You're
it.
providing a lot of insights. You're being very helpful right now. I still would like to go a little deeper into this, if you're okay with this.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you feel a lot more willing to be open with people. You've also have demonstrated, or at least spoken about all the different places that you put yourself out to be to have the potentiality to be vulnerable around people. How does it get reciprocated back to you, and how do you decide whether this is a person that you're willing to engage with some more, or does your previous saying of you want everyone to be a part of something, is that for every single person that you meet?
So as far as like getting to know or like including everyone and everything, now I don't do that. Or this is a very recent development. That's something that I'm like changing. So
Ooh, character development. Okay.
I've actually intentionally left certain friendships. I mean, not that they were like really super friendships, but like people that I let's say acquaintances. I had certain acquaintances in my life that at one time may have been a friend, but then we became more of an acquaintance. But that just were not people that I wanted to have in my life for certain reasons. And
Wait,
so
friends that turn into acquaintances?
friends that kind of like faded more into an acquaintance.
That's wild. I can't even comprehend that.
Well, I think I viewed them as friends. I don't know if they ever really were friends, if that makes sense.
Okay, that
Like,
makes more sense. Yeah.
um, I don't think that they really valued the friendship as much as I did. And some of them did. So that's why I say, like, some of them were more friends. But, anyways, or even like colleagues, let's just say,
Yeah.
with certain things that I was involved with, mainly improv and this, like, local politic or organization thing that I was in. There were people that I was acquainted with that I decided I was not going to be acquainted with anymore. And just because I have met people that have used, that I feel as though have used my, I don't know, proximity to people as a way of like a social gain in a way that wasn't so nice. And so I've like kind of shielded myself from those people, and I'm only surrounding myself with people that have we each have each other's best interests in mind, or I think that are like good people. Not saying that those people were bad, but like I just didn't really like their situation.
Was
I
it the
know I'm being
vibe?
very
Like,
vague.
was it like, oh, they weren't reciprocating enough? Like,
Sometimes reciprocation, like I think this goes to your other question about like how do you know if you want to continue something. If people are reciprocating with you, if people are making an effort, and if you're seeing them, so like a lot of my social things, maybe I see them more in a larger group at first, And then if we decide, okay, this is someone that I want to get to know more, then maybe I would have a smaller group setting or even a one-on-one
Mm.
situation with them. But like if someone's not reciprocating, like I have people in my life, whether they're friends or acquaintances, that aren't really the ones to ever like initiate or make a plan. And sometimes that can be kind of disheartening. Um, but there are certain people that like it's just in their nature or in their personality to not really be that way. And
Yeah,
like
I'm sorry for all INTJs to INFJs. I'm
yeah.
sorry that we don't make plans, but we will go if you make it.
Yeah, I just for those people like and it also depends on the person. Like it is individual to that person cuz some people it is for a different reason, like maybe they just straight up don't like you or whatever. Um yeah, I just kind of like I'll reach out, I'll see how it is and again, I'm not going to I'm too grown to worry about why someone doesn't like me anymore.
Yay.
Even though I still go through that process. Um, and
That
I
makes me
will,
so happy to hear as an
yeah.
INTJ. That makes me so happy that you're finally like putting boundaries up there.
I have straight up asked people, like, what's your issue with me?
Mm.
I have confronted people before, which I don't think really works. I mean,
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
not
how
that you
did they
would frame
respond?
it that way, but like,
Mm.
I think people really do not like that answer. When you clock the fact that someone doesn't like you and you call them out for that, oftentimes they do not appreciate it because they want to keep up a certain facade, especially if it's in a friend group. So I've definitely noticed that. I've had to have certain conversations, and typically speaking, we're not we're not friends. Like, and
Mm.
so you kind of have to like, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, there's definitely I've had my fair share of people come in and out of my life, not super close friends, but just because of the there's a I don't want to say there's a high churn with like the friends that I have because there's friends that I've had for a long time and there are people that are very consistent in each other's lives and stuff. But there are people that you meet and whether they move away or whether they're just not whether it's just like they're in a certain phase in their life where they're like I don't really want to hang out with these people anymore. I mean, it's just understandable. I just also realize that and I think that's something that everyone should understand is sometimes it isn't personal and sometimes people just are on their own journey and like maybe they're just not wanting to be around you anymore. Um,
Does it hurt you when you arrive to a conclusion that someone might not like you?
it depends on the person. But yeah, I definitely it I mean, there are certain people, so like there's one person in particular that I actually ended up becoming friends with. But for the first year that this person knew me, they didn't like me. And I mean that was a thought I had in my head about
Mm.
them.
Okay.
They were just like really kind of mean towards me. Um, and then I became friends with them and I asked them about it and they did admit that they didn't like me for the first year. They didn't have a reason for it. They didn't know me, but they just had like a really and I mean knowing that I should have never been their friend, knowing that cuz for someone to go a whole year not even giving someone the time of day and just like not liking them for no reason, that's
Yeah.
pretty fucked up honestly. And so now we're not friends anymore. But
Really?
that person, yeah. Well, because that's who they are. They just have a nasty attitude,
Yeah.
honestly.
Dude,
Um,
dude, I went to my buddy's wedding and he told me, yeah, my wife said no to you, but I had to explain to her that you've always been like a day one. And then like I've known this girl for years. Like I've interacted with her for years and she never liked me until recently. She finally came to, and for me it's like, okay, finally. Like I don't really hold it against her because I think that it's because
she had to go through her own personal development in order to arrive to where she's more open to engaging with me. Um, I, yeah, I think that's the way I see it. But also, again, right? If they don't like me and if they're not part of my social group, then I don't care. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that plays into it or not. I'm sorry to interrupt, but go on, please.
No, it's okay. I think why it did affect things a little bit more is because, when I joined improv, I knew everyone in the theater. I was inviting everyone to from the theater, which there was like 80 people in that theater or whatever at the time. So like I like got to know everyone. When I left the theater, there were new people that came in that I like, didn't really. I didn't have that attitude anymore. I was trying to like not be as much that attitude, but like yeah, I was so intertwined with people that whether they wanted to or not, and also where I live is like a bit smaller, so it's easy to like run into different social circles. I was kind of becoming a woman about town and just knew just knew a lot of people. So that person, like whether they wanted to or not, like they had friends that were like friends with me, and like so like I was kind of always around. So they saw me a lot. It wasn't like I was just, they saw me like once or twice, but like they saw me on a consistent basis. But yeah, I mean, with that situation, I don't think that person's like a bad person or something, but they just they have their own thing going on, and they kind of do have a certain attitude about people. It's not just towards me. Like a lot of people have like this person doesn't like a lot of people, and
No new
they're
friends type mentality.
what?
Like no new friends type of mentality.
No, they are very I would say very exclusive. Like if they don't see, which I know other people are that way. Like I think INTJs can be that way too, but you guys go about it in a different way. Like
Energy.
she had a nasty attitude towards people that she just would be very dismissive or very mean towards people that she didn't see a value in having in her life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference in thinking that internally, but also being nice, being a nice, gracious person to someone. I'm not saying like be fake, but like, be friendly with people, even if you're like, oh, this person's not for me, but I'm not gonna like treat them like trash. This person, yeah. So it is what it is, but it's just not the way I would go about things, honestly. Um, but yeah.
Okay. So you've met people that you connect with, you met people that you didn't connect with. You mentioned ways in which an INFJ could develop in order to be more of a social person. You mentioned multiple different avenues that you've taken in order to meet people. You've mentioned how you like energy conservation, like how it how much energy it took from you, and then just the toll that it had on you. But you also mentioned the benefit of it when it comes down to creating a social network, and also, for us, if we're going to use Myers-Briggs term, having SE, meaning that we do care a little about social standings. So it sounds like you have a relatively big social network. Big is relative to what you believe to be big, and then what I'm hearing right now. Would you have done anything differently with all the knowledge that you have right now?
I think I would be more exclusionary, but not in a way that like I was trying to outcast people, but in a way that I think I would be a little bit less I don't know. I would not invite every single person that I know. I mean, I wouldn't try to like get to know people and then invite them to stuff, even though I love it. Like it feels so cool for me. But also like I love the idea of like other people meeting each other. Like it just is
Yeah.
something that I really enjoy. But for my own energy's sake, and then also for safety reasons, and also just different reasons, I don't think I would invite, because I was inviting people to like parties and social gatherings that I probably shouldn't have. Maybe getting to know someone on a more over time, not necessarily in a surface level context, but in a more like taking more time to get to know someone before I introduce them into my friend group. Because there are people that I would be like, "Oh, this person, like, let's invite this person, let's invite this person," and then sometimes the person that I introduced to the friend group ends up becoming kind of a drama, like they end up causing drama that could have been avoided had I just been more like, okay, let's pump the brakes on this like friendship a bit.
I think it's fascinating because my growth is the opposite. As in, I need to be more open with inviting people, being more open with engaging with people. But there is something else that I do want to discuss before we get into that portion of the video. After meeting all these people and then being in the situations that you've been in, you can either go positive or negative, green flag or red flag, but are there specific green flags or red flags that you've noticed within meeting strangers where it's like more of a tenet now for you to follow when you actually engage with people that you don't know?
It's hard to put into words like the green flags. So one thing I'm not attracted to personally, or is a little bit of a repellent, is when people act like like there's a fakeness to their presenting. Like if someone is overly friendly.
Girl, you have to be a little specific, right? If INTJs are watching this video, they're gonna be like,
That's
"Oh, like
true.
extroverted feeling." Like I need you to be a little more.
It is a little bit on the extroverted feeling side of things. There's a specific type of fakeness, and I think also this might be a cultural thing because I do live in the South. I don't know, and I would actually say it's not really an FI fakeness, it is an FE fakeness, even though I obviously value FE. There are certain people that, you know, I think anybody that is so desperate to be friends with you and they want to be your best friend and they're like, and I'm not just being like, oh, they're inviting you to something and like, hey, come to this thing, but like if they're very much like, oh my gosh, I love you, and kind of like love bomb you but in a friendship way, that's something that I do not think is good to try to associate with, or just be skeptical of that. On the other hand, I do tend to make friends with people that aren't overly shy, but not overly friendly either. I mean, maybe even more on the shy side, where, I don't know, if someone just seems like an authentic person, they don't really seem like they have like any ulterior motives. And they may have ulterior motives, but like, basically, it's kind of just a feeling that I get from someone. It's kind of hard to explain, I would say. I don't like overly condescending people. So if people are condescending right away, I don't know. So I give a lot of people chances, and yeah, so it's hard for me to say, but those are, I would say, the main things.
I think that is helpful for INFJs watching this video to be aware of. Condescending nature. For me, it depends why to be condescending. I mean, I'm sure for you too as well, right? Like
Yeah.
But I think green flag for me is if someone's willing to make fun of themselves. If they're willing to be the butt of a joke, then I know they don't take themselves that serious. You know, that they're willing to laugh at their mistakes. And, you know, as an INTJ, I look for people's flaws because their flaws is what makes them human, what makes them stand out. That's what I love most about people, the difference between them and someone else. I think the biggest red flag for me, which honestly I feel like this should be a red flag for everyone, is how they treat workers, how they treat, you know, like industry workers. If they're negative to people who they feel superior to, if they have a superiority complex, right? Like just any type of superiority, whether it's to animals, to humans, or something. It's like, dude, like get out of your own head. You know, get out of your ass. Like, why are you doing this? This person's still a human too. Just because you don't know this person, and just because they're in this situation where you may or may not be financially more well off, that doesn't mean you're better than them inherently. You know, it's very societal. And then me being me, it's like I don't care. Like I've said this in my video before, I'll say this again. You know, like I've talking back to like VPs at the company I worked at. This person, like everyone, when she walked in a room, everyone went silent. Everyone feared her. Not me, because for me, at the end of the day, she's just another person. You know, like I'm the expert in what I need to talk about, and if she doesn't like what I need to, like what I'm bringing up, then we can talk about it some more. But don't tell me that I'm wrong when I'm not. That makes no sense to me. To back off.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. She's really resonating with what you're saying.
Oh yeah, she agrees.
Yeah.
I know I've used this word many times in this conversation, the word fascinating. And I really didn't mean it every single time because I feel like your approach to meeting people and the whys, your reasoning to meeting people and then how you actually meet them and the process in which you have to take in order to vet whether they're a good or bad person. It sounds very familiar, but different for me. Like, I have moved states almost every year for the past like 10 years. And so I've put myself in like very, very uncomfortable situations in order to meet people. And I do it purposely because I want to grow. And I wholeheartedly believe that I can't grow as a person unless I personally experience it myself. So for all of you people out there who, younger INTJs, because I believe this myself when I was growing up, you can't understand something just by reading it. Just because you understand the theory of it doesn't mean that's exactly what it is. You have to understand the culture of it. You have to understand why it is the way it is, not by just reading it, but you actually like, it's very similar to growing up in a certain community, growing up in a certain diverse, like not diversity, racial background or something, being in the military. You don't understand something until you actually live through it. And that's something that I've consistently have put myself through. You know, in the past few years, you know, Emily, I've put myself in weird situations, like weird situations. The situation that netted the most positive outcome, and I'm talking through a TE sense because if I don't know how to explain this in FI, that would just take forever. Like the situation I put myself in that netted the most positive outcome was actually being in New York, going to the MBTI meetup. I tried hosting MBTI meetups in Seattle. I don't get people. I did it for a span of I think 3 to 4 months, and I've gotten a few stragglers here and there. I met some cool people, but it's never been consistent, and I really do believe it's because it's just narrowing it down to MBTI. So if I did something similar to you, which is, what's the name of your cult again?
It's not a cult, but the thought provokers.
Thought provokers. There we go. I'm actually been going to this thing, philosophy related like meetups, and that actually has more people. You know, I'm going to give ranges, right? My extreme was I went to certain kink meetups just because I needed to think outside the group, outside the box. It's like, oh, okay, well, I've never done kink meetups. Let's go there. But you know, as an Asian guy going there, there's a lot of weirdos that have fetishes, and I've definitely been invited to do things that I was not comfortable with, which I'm not knocking off the community. I'm not, like
I'm not
I'm all,
convinced. I'm just kidding.
right? Like
Sorry, guys. I'm not into that stuff, but yeah.
I'm
But
all
it,
for living your life however you want
yes.
to. It's just as long just don't touch my butt.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
keep that out of the equation. So I've been to places like that. Then I've also been to like, you know, anyone watching this video, if you want to meet an NF, easiest place. I've been to meetups in 4 different cities. Join a book club or join a writing club.
Or art.
Yeah, or art. Even spoken words or something that has to do with any type of artistic like output. You will meet a lot of NFs. Um, I usually can't really connect with people there, either because we're in different life stages, or also because I'm not really into that as much as they are. I can listen and agree to a certain extent, but it gets to a point where it's like, okay, like this is the breadth of my knowledge. I can't get deeper, and I can't give you what you need in this relationship. The I've been to meetups where it's just trivia night, meeting random people and then playing trivia with them. I'm not competitive, and they are. And when they notice that I'm not competitive in that aspect, it causes this mini tension. It's like, why are you here? Why are you even like competing with us? I've been to board game nights. Board game nights has a hodgepodge of people. You definitely meet different people at different events, and but it's very difficult to build connection with people at those events because they're usually people who don't enjoy engaging with extroverted sensing. They do board games, but they don't like going to concerts. They do, board games, but they don't like going like hiking or doing something that's sensory related. There's a lot of NTPs primarily that do those things. I put my dude. If you guys watched my video before, I forced my ENTJ to go with me to this dating meetup, which I didn't say this in the video, but I met this INFJ guy, and we were like, best buddies after a few minutes of just chatting, which makes me sad because we didn't exchange information because I feel like we'd be really good friends. But yeah, I went there to those meetups. My ENTJ, I call her my guard dog. I just send her out. I'm like, hey, I want to talk to those people. Open up for me. She goes in, she scurries around, goes over, opens up to conversation, and I come in. Makes it easy because we both like work really well off of each other. I've been to hung out with friends from friends, but I have this rule that I don't date friends. I don't like to dip my pen in company ink because it might ruin. If it doesn't work well, then who do I lose? I dated a friend once, never again, ever again. That is the last thing I ever want to do again. Yeah, I've done a lot of things, and I am aware that if like friendship and any type of relationship is easier to maintain if there's consistency. That's why going to university with someone, that's why, going to work with someone is easier to make friends with someone because you consistently see them. So you learn more about them every single time if you guys are willing to put in effort. But it's very difficult for me to see a future with some of the people that I meet and want to spend more time with them. And, this is me keeping my own sanity. I'm aware that the more I see them, actually, I don't know why I'm trying to be political. All right. I'm going to tee this shit out of this. And I'm sorry, Emily, if this sounds rude, but like, I know when I connect with people. FI, she's there. FI is always there. FI tells me that, hey, this person did this and this is something that goes against your values. And, when I hear that, I communicate with them in a way where I learn more about their values to see whether it aligns with them or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's fine. They're a human being. They'll find someone that they want to engage with, but not me. The other part of it also is it's not necessarily being selective. It's more along the lines of growth. It's okay. And Emily, I think you've been in a situation as well before, and I apologize if I offend anyone that's watching this video. If you're a transplant, it's very difficult for me as a person that's a native that doesn't plan on leaving to want to be friends with you, because it sounds like you don't even like you're going to be here for a season and then you're going to be gone. You know, we can have the best time that night that we meet. But if it sounds like you're not going to be around, you know, like what is the point? You know, like I have people in my life already that wants to spend time with me, that actively puts in effort, and I know will be here to take care of me once I'm like 50, 60, or like 180 years old, you know, once I become a cyborg. It's just like, I don't believe that these people who are transplants that don't want to be here are worth my time. And I know it sounds very like along the lines of superficial or unrealistic, or like I can imagine an ENFP telling me, well, you know, you should just be friends and see where it leads to. Giving my time to this person takes away my time for other people that will be there for me, that will take care of me, that does care for me. With that being said, I am a little more open with actually meeting new people. It really does come down to like extrovert dancing for me. It's like I meet so many INTPs. I've been volunteering a lot recently, and I've been meeting INTPs left and right, but they don't want to engage with extrovert sensing with me. Why else am I outside the house if I'm not engaging with extrovert sensing? You know, like I want to do stuff. I want to experience things. But if you just want to sit around and just talk about things all day, that sounds like a waste of time for me. I already have people to do that with. You know, like I feel like my FI rant's getting pretty long. Let me wrap it up. I want to meet people because meeting people expands my understanding of the world, and which directly makes me understand myself even more. But I am cognizant that I need to catch my assumptions and figure out whether this is something that I'm willing to alter or something that I'm not. INTJs, we can come off as standoffish, and I agree that I am as well. But once you actually meet someone that you connect with, then, you know, like, it's something that you should harbor, like, you not harbor, but it's something that you should nurture. And there are a very small handful of people that I've met in the 4 or 5 states that I lived in that I still connect with, I'm still connected with, that I still consider some of my closest friends, but I haven't messaged in like a year or two, which I feel like I should after this conversation. I think, help me out here too, Emily. One of the biggest daunting question that I've realized that exists for the INTJ subreddit and the INTJ sphere in itself is the question, where do you meet INTJs?
I feel like you definitely meet them more at, like, I think my discussion group probably does get some INTJs, for example.
Mm.
Again, I also had a typology group that you also see INTJs there. I would say you would also see INTJs trying to go to social things. So, like, we have a 20s 30s meetup in my area. I don't think they would be a regular there, but they would at least try it out because they're like thinking, oh, I want to meet people. I find them more in, I would say, they're more attracted towards the intellectual discussions. And then I also do see them a lot in F spaces, so like the FI stuff. There's some in the music scene, there's some in like an artistic scene, but again, they're not always the people that are like, oh, I'm an artist or whatever, but they just like to be around FI in those spaces. So yeah, I don't know if I have a definitive place where I would go looking for one.
Do you attribute artistic areas to FI?
Not always FI, but I do find that they do be
They do.
they are
Grammatically
typically
correct.
they do be dominated. They tend to be dominated by FI users, but also I mean some FE, but I would say like especially like the art groups do tend to be hosted by FI users. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because I do think INTJs tend to be more of the lone wolves. Like they have to actively try to be social, and I think they are trying to craft ways of getting out there. I don't think it's just a like you as a personal thing or you personally. Other INTJs that I know are always trying to hack the system of how can I meet people that I want to meet, especially if they know about socionics, because they're like, I want to meet like an SE user, but I'm not into sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to like clubs or bars or something, and those are kind of like stereotypical SE things. But you might find them doing those things. I know some INTJs are very into fitness, so maybe even like at a gym, but it's a very specific type of fitness versus like maybe an SE user. They're doing it as almost like a mental, it's like, in a way I would say it's kind of a mental exercise more than anything, as also, and then seeing what their physical capabilities can get to. It depends on what that INTJ is really focused on, like, mastering. Because I think a lot of INTJs can relate to the idea of if you try to underestimate them, they're gonna be like, look at me, prove you wrong, and then some. Like, I'm gonna be the best at this thing, even if I suck at it, I'm gonna be the best at it, and you're gonna eat your words.
So funny. I miss having that drive. I really do miss having that drive.
But yeah, I don't know. That is the question. Where to meet people? Where do you meet people?
Yeah. I think one of the last things I wanted to add in this video, and I'm very loud about this. I'm one of the only loud person about this in the intuitive sphere of Myers-Briggs and cognitive functions and typology, is as an INTJ, you grow more when you have sensor friends. As an INTJ, you grow more when you surround yourself with extroverted feeling. It's not going to be easy, all right? It's not going to be easy. But like the more differences there are between you and your social circle, the more complete person you become.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think that's extremely insightful, especially as an INTJ, to have that level of understanding. Because I do think that is kind of something that I've noticed with not only INTJs, but other types that are similar. I think, again, I haven't been in the scene. I told John this. I've not been in the MBTI scene / socionic scene in a while. I don't watch any channels that are related to this. John is now my only channel that I'm watching.
Don't watch my videos.
Well, I mean, there's other channels that I'm like still subscribed to, but I don't watch this content anymore, personally. But that being said, I hope that and maybe it isn't, but if you still have the stereotype that intuitives are smarter than sensors, or sensors are like somehow subhuman compared to intuitives, that is like a really, like, you have to stop that, because some of the smartest people I know are sensors, and I completely agree with you, John. I am also a huge advocate for that. Like, I surround myself with all different types of people, and I think it makes you a way more well-rounded person. You do not want to be in an echo chamber of having the same thoughts and feelings and all this stuff, because sometimes when uncomfortable things happen to you, that's how you grow. Like you have to
Yep.
you have to expose yourself. Sometimes it will feel like exposure therapy, especially if it's not in your nature to do certain things or be with certain people. But I guarantee you, people are very resilient, and people also adapt really easily for the most part. Like you can become friends with people that you never thought you would be friends with.
Hmm. I have been pleasantly surprised by people before, and typically they're ESFPs.
Yeah.
You know, the first time I meet them, like, who is this person? Oh, I'm never going to spend time with them. But then I start engaging with them more, only to realize that I was the one that was wrong.
That's
That
your
I was
duel.
being what was that?
That's your duel.
Yeah, it is my duel. You know, I was an idiot. This ESFP is actually one of like the coolest people that I know now, and I respect the hell out of him. You know, and it happened to me twice. They're both ESFPs.
Yeah.
Not a fan of most ESFPs, but the ones that I do meet that I get along with, like
Well,
they're fantastic people.
it's honestly that's kind of like, which not to get into socionics too deeply, but
No, go ahead, girl.
with socionics, your duel, it's actually like, um, it's a cruel and sick joke, but your duel is going to be someone that you would never think you would like from a psychological distance. So that is a thing. Like, the more psychologically closer you get to your duel, the more you like them. Whereas your conflictor, which for you would be an ESFJ, you might actually admire them from afar. You may be like, oh, I actually, this person's pretty cool or whatever. But the more that you get to know them on a psychological, like, there's a more psychological closeness, the less you like them.
Actually, ESFJs are my third favorite type.
Really? You think
Yeah.
so?
No, I know so. Like I
Really?
spent
That's interesting.
decades like meeting ESFJs, and then like the easiest way that I can explain this if we're talking about typology is they're taking care of my last two, like my seventh and eighth function, right? I don't have to think about extroverted feeling. I don't have to think about introverted sensing. They're taking care of that. So it's like everything else, I can kind of just be me. I just have to listen and complain, whine, and talk about other people. I just have to agree with them, and then they feed me, and then make me feel comfortable. Like, what's not to like about that? With the exception of but I think the other part of it also is I have accepted that they will talk about me to other people, and just me as an ITJ, we don't like being talked about, especially if it's something that we can't defend. But once you understand that that's just their way of communicating, yeah, they're honestly one of my favorite people.
Well, that's a really good, shall I say, actualized way of thinking about that personality type. I mean, I like ESFJs too, but yeah, like my dual or my conflictor is ESTJ, and I kind of a similar thing. I wouldn't say they're one of my favorite people, but I know how to deal with them. Like there's certain things that I recognize about them that I know is not going to be something that comes naturally to me, and it does take one of the parties to really be like, if you can get over that psychological hump, you can pretty much get along with any person. And there are going to be straight up bad people out there. Like,
Yep.
there are bad people out there. I would say that most people are either neutral or good, though.
I agree.
Yeah. And then there's people that are just bad for you. Like, they're not bad people, but they're just not good for you. So, like,
Yeah.
don't feel bad, like, if you don't like someone that everybody else likes.
The people that wronged me the most were INFPs, yet they're still some of my favorite people. Like it really is an individual, right? Like typology or personality incorporates upbringing, so they're just raised that way. But we're hitting 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Let's start wrapping this video up.
Okay.
Is there any like topic that we didn't discuss that you think is very important or younger you would have loved to learn about?
Another thing that I struggled with, and I don't think this necessarily has to do with social, but I did find that a lot of things came easy to me in general. And so I feel like I made things harder for myself. Like I intentionally would make things, and I still do this to this day. Like I'll kind of set up certain obstacles. Um, and I don't even know if that's type related. It might just be the way I was raised or whatever. But I think really the best advice I would give to an INFJ or anybody is get over yourself. Like, I think it was something like, I feel like someone put it this way, like if you have embarrassment to do something, that means that you're too, like, you think you're more important than you actually are. Like, I think that people are important. I think people are very valuable. But in all reality, most people, not saying that people never think about you and never, talk about you or whatever, but most people are living their own lives and they could give a you know what about you, like at the end of the day. Not in like a mean way. They're just so involved in their own lives that you shouldn't let someone else's opinion affect the way that you go throughout your world or your life or how you make friends. Also, I think it's best to assume, don't be naive with this. Like, there's a certain level of, like, you need to be aware, but assume the best in people until they prove you wrong, but also don't invite people to be in a close proximity to you until they prove that to you, like that they are, like, basically you want to be open to people and you want to like assume the best, but you also don't want to open up your world to someone that could potentially, like, if you have an intuition about someone that you think, okay, this person might not be the best person, like, obviously, like, don't invite them over to your house. Maybe don't introduce them to your friend group intentionally. If it happens, it happens, but just be wary, but also, like, let that friendship breathe. And most things are revealed over time. People can only keep up a certain act for a certain period of time, and then they will reveal that to you over time. I know that sounds kind of cryptic, but it sometimes just plays out. So.
I'm
Sorry.
No, that was amazing. Thank you. I'm just, that is nothing close to what I want, the advice that I would give INTJs. But that's one of the reasons why I love INFJs. You guys cover that blind spot for us.
What advice would you give?
Easy.
Easy.
INTJs. Let's talk about this like real, all right? Let's be for real. We are the main characters of our own life and our own story. No one's gonna live our life for us. So you should be picky with the people that you want to spend your time with. The other thing that like there are caveats to this, right? Be open, like be open to other people and different perspectives. One negative that they have doesn't mean that they're just a negative person, right? Like one red flag doesn't mean that they don't have a million green flags to compensate for it. The other part of it also is, like this is speaking from personal experience. Like we're INFJs and INTJs, we're natural chameleons. It is so easy to be who we believe the other person wants us to be. But that doesn't mean they will accept us when we start, shedding our skin and like showing who we really are. INTJs, be yourself. People are going to come, people are going to go. It's, making friends, it's a numbers game. You're going to meet people that you enjoy your time with, or people that you're not going to enjoy your time with. There are going to be a bunch of people that you initially thought that you're going to like and have around for a while, but then you guys fall apart. but there are going to be people that stay. I think the best quote I have is from the other INFJ content creator that Emily has been on her channel too, was Joyce Mang. She said this to me, and it was in one of the videos that we did together. It's, find people that speaks your language, or you will spend an eternity trying to translate your soul. I completely agree with that. As an NI Dom, it is so difficult for people to actually to engage with people in a meaningful way that we believe like recharges us or some aspect that we want to be in. And then just personally, I went ballistic on my friend like 2 weekends ago because I had that pent up in me for the past like 20 years. And that conversation finally came up, and it exploded. Like, I'm not proud of myself, honestly. I'm very embarrassed. I wish I approached it differently. I apologize, and we'll see. I know we're going to get over that hump because we have such a strong foundation that, like this person, like I'm raising her kid. Like if I ever have kids, she'll raise mine. Like that's the way that I perceive that. Like that is the reality of our relationship. Difficult times are going to come, but then we're going to get over it together. When it comes down to making new friends, like be selective, but also be open. I know that sounds very counterintuitive, but if you're an INTJ, I feel like you understand what I'm saying. Be very specific about your approach, because I've wasted a lot of times putting myself in situations that I honestly felt like I was wasting my time. What I will say is the good times that I have definitely outweighs the bad times that I had when it comes down to meeting new people. And what I wish I knew back then is just like when you're having a great discussion with someone, and I'm thinking back at it, right? The two people that got away from me were two INFJs. I wish that I exchanged contacts with them before I left. As in something as simple as, oh, we're having this great conversation, but I'm going to use the bathroom real quick. And for some reason you come back and like they're gone, or something comes up where you have to leave and you don't meet this person again. Like there's, for some reason or another, you're never going to see each other again. Make sure you ask for their contact right before one of you leave, because there probably isn't I'd say there's going to be times where there's no opportunity for you guys to have that exchange. Yeah. INTPs are always out there. I know a lot of you INTJs talk about meeting INTPs. They are everywhere. I'm talking about like INTPs are every space that I'm in. If you want to find a lover, if you want to find an NF person, I think for the guys are more drawn towards NF, and then ladies are more drawn towards NTs. If you want to find NFs, artistic places, there are a plethora of them there. And a lot of them, at least from my experience, are single and ready to mingle. For the NTs, board game nights, something that's more nerdy, like they're definitely out there.
I would also be at the board game nights.
Yeah,
I'm very competitive, by the way.
But you have to.
Oh, did we lose connection? Okay, I was saying that we've talked about this, but I'm very competitive, and if it's any type of strategy game, I will try to annihilate people. But I'll act like I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just a silly little girl that's playing a game, and then I'll beat everyone.
I was terrified. I made an INFJ friend who were in New Hampshire, which she got with ENFP, right? How typical. But I remember playing a board game with her and another guy, which I don't know what his type is, but I was scared how competitive she was. Because my goal was just to have a good time and just mess around and, get to know people. I didn't realize that we were playing to win.
I'm not having a good time unless I'm being competitive, because that's why I like Blood on the Clock Tower. Because I can be, like the social deduction aspect. You have to like go off. It's like a puzzle and you're trying to solve it. And I will interrogate people. I've literally gotten into heated debates with people over that game.
I don't understand that. I just don't. Maybe it's the birth order effect, or maybe it's just an INTJ thing. But I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Make sure you find the right people for you. And even if you don't, learn. Make a game out of it. INTJs, we are most active when we turn something to a theory into a game. So, yeah, gamify your approach to finding people. Emily, I know you mentioned that you're not planning on making new videos, so
Well,
for
not videos on typology necessarily.
you evolved past typology.
I mean, part of the reason I left is I mean, I don't know if you experience this at all, but it is very like a bit draining when people are attacking you, literally attacking your personality, like in the comments, and that did affect me, like to a certain extent. I'm like, I don't give a rat's fuck ass whatever about what you think about me, you little like biatch people in the comments. But I also care about them at the same time, so it kind of sucks. But yeah. Also, hopefully, I don't know if you cuss on your channel a lot, but
No, never.
okay.
There's the side of me which is like very data driven. It's like the last video I did was with INTJ. The views were shit, but the watch time was like one of the longest I've ever had. So if the data is telling me that I'm doing something correct, then I'm doing something correct. And my life motto or theory or whatever I want to call it is, as long as I can change one person's life, it's worth the time. So this video is going to reach the people that it needs to. At the time, it needs to. And if it positively affects their day, their month, their year, or the rest of their life, we're doing something right. And it's also fun. Thank you for being part of this video. I know you might take a YouTube hiatus, you might not. You know, people like me, a fan of your channel, we miss you. We hope you come back, but definitely do what makes the most sense to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, I do want to make videos, but just not make it more about being an introvert rather than, yeah. But
She has a TikTok. She has YouTube. I don't know if she has Instagram, but I'll make sure to have a link to every one of her social that she wants to engage with you guys with. Yeah.
It's Pucokie for everything.
Leave comments below. If you guys have any questions, like I'll make sure one of us answers it. But I hope you guys found what we talked about informative. And, you know, like Pucokie, Emily, I hope you find the group. I hope you become a little more selective, and I hope that you find peace in whatever you decide to do.
Well, and if you're not subscribed to John's channel, go ahead and subscribe.
Yeah, I have lots of INFJs on my channel.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.